Because female narcissists do not randomly end up with good men. They target them intentionally. And once you understand why, a lot of your story starts making sense. Welcome to the Narc Free Man Podcast. Welcome back to the Narc Free Man Podcast. I'm Phillip Dugas, and this show is about helping men understand narcissistic abuse, break free from toxic relationships, and rebuild their lives. Today, we are talking about something a lot of men get backwards. A lot of men think, if I ended up with a narcissistic woman, maybe I wasn't as strong as I thought. No, in many cases, the exact opposite is true. She targeted you because you were strong, because you had integrity, because you had discipline, because you had moral weight, because you had something she wanted access to. So let's break this down. One of the biggest lies high-value men tell themselves after a toxic relationship is this: I must have been weak to fall for that. And I want to challenge that right away. A female narcissist usually does not lead with chaos. She does not walk up to you on one day and announce, hey, I'm manipulative, I'm controlling, I'm going to slowly erode your confidence and then blame you for it. That's not how it works. Narcissists usually show up as the exact kind of woman a good man will be drawn to. She appears warm. She appears emotionally open. She appears supportive. She appears like she sees your value. And for a man who has worked hard to build his life, build his name, build his character, that kind of attention can feel rare. It can feel earned. It can feel like finally someone gets me. But what many men don't realize is this: a female narcissist is often not drawn to you because she wants to build with you. She's drawn to you because she sees something in you she can use. Your strength, your steadiness, your reputation, your provision, your leadership, your patience, your moral code. She sees those things not as sacred. She sees them as leverage. And if you miss that, you'll spend years thinking you were chosen because you were loved, when in reality, you were chosen because you were useful. And that hurts to hear, but for so many men out there, it's the truth. So if she didn't choose you because you were weak, why exactly did she choose you? Let's go deeper. A high-value man is pretty much easy for a female narcissist to spot, not because he's flashy or because he brags, but because of how he carries himself. He's stable. He's dependable. He has standards. He's disciplined. He has self-control. He keeps his word. He has people who respect him. He is trying to do the right thing. And what most good men don't realize is that those traits act like a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't just guide healthy ships, it also attracts predators. Your integrity makes you visible. Your consistency makes you predictable. Your moral code makes you easier to manipulate because she knows you will try to be fair. She knows you will hear her out. And she knows you will question yourself before you accuse someone else. She knows you don't want to be cruel. She knows you don't want to overreact. She knows you want peace. And that is exactly why narcissistic women often target good men, because good men hesitate. Good men give second chances. Good men want to understand. Good men want to lead with love. And a manipulative, toxic woman can turn all of that into a trap. And that's one of the hardest truths to face. The very things that make you a good man can also make you vulnerable if they are not protected by discernment and boundaries. Your patience becomes a place she hides in. Your mercy becomes a place she abuses from. Your loyalty becomes the chain she uses to keep you stuck. I have seen this pattern over and over again with men in my audience. And the story is almost always some version of this. He's a good guy, works hard, provides, tries to do the right thing. He's not perfect, but solid. When she first comes into his life, she admires him. She tells him he's different from other men. She praises his strength. She tells him she feels safe with him. She says she's never met a man like him before. And because he's not an arrogant man, because he's not used to being flattered that way, because he's trying to be grounded and humble, it disarms him. He doesn't think this is manipulation. He thinks, oh, this woman finally sees me. That's how it starts. Not with obvious abuse, but with admiration. Not with war, but with emotional access. And by the time the disrespect shows up, bond is already formed. Another reason narcissistic women target high-value men is because your reputation helps clean up theirs. Now, this is huge. If you are known as a good man, your reputation creates what psychologists sometimes call a halo effect. People around you assume that someone attached to you must also be trustworthy. If you are disciplined, they assume she's grounded. If you are stable, they assume she's sincere. If you are respected, they assume she's safe. That gives her cover. And this is one of the reasons narcissistic women love attaching themselves to men with integrity, because your credibility becomes borrowed credibility. Your character becomes camouflage. Your reputation becomes her protection. Now think about that. A woman with hidden motives gets enormous value from being connected to a man other people admire. Why? Because it makes it harder for anyone to suspect her. And it makes it harder for you to suspect her too. Because your own mind starts telling you, if I'm good at reading people and I chose her, she must be good. And that's part of the trap. Your self-trust gets weaponized against you. And later, when things start going wrong, you don't just question her. You question yourself. You think, how did I miss this? How did I let this happen? How did I get this so wrong? That self-doubt is exactly where her control gets stronger. But it gets even darker than that, because it's not just that she wants your stability. A lot of the time, she wants the thrill of conquering what she should have respected. A narcissistic woman is often not impressed by weak men. Weak men are easy, predictable, low challenge, low reward. But a man with boundaries, values, discipline, leadership, and self-respect, that's different. That's a prize. Not because she wants to honor it, but because she wants to prove she can dominate. And this is one of the parts men struggle to understand. A female narcissist often gets a sense of power, not just from being wanted, but from taking down a man who should have been untouchable. To her, the strong man is the ultimate trophy. If she can get a disciplined, high-value man to doubt himself, if she can get a respected man to beg, if she can get a stable man to become reactive, if she can get a morally serious man to betray his own standards just to keep her, then she feels powerful. That's why some of the men who get hit hardest by these female narcissists are not weak men. They are strong men who underestimated how strategic emotional manipulation can be. This was never just romance for her. It was conquest. And once you understand that, a lot of confusing behavior suddenly makes sense. Why did she seem to enjoy testing you? Why did she keep pushing boundaries? Why did she provoke reactions and then play the victim? Why did she seem almost energized when you were off balance? Because your breakdown was part of the reward. And that's hard to say. Many of you listening know exactly what I mean. You see, a female narcissist studies a high-value man the same way a scammer studies a target. She pays attention. She listens closely. She learns what matters to you, your faith, your family values, your goals, your leadership, and your pain, your hopes and your wounds. She learns your language. She learns your values. She learns what kind of woman you would trust, and then she mirrors it. This is why the beginning of your relationship feels so deep, and you are not crazy for thinking it felt real. It was designed to feel real. She presents herself as aligned with you. She seems to love what you love. She seems to honor what you honor. She seems to respect your mission. But that alignment is often strategic and not authentic. She is building emotional access, and once she has it, the dynamic changes. Now your values become pressure points. Your desire to be a good father becomes leverage. Your desire to be a good husband becomes leverage. Your desire to avoid hurting people becomes leverage. Your faith becomes leverage. Your guilt becomes leverage. Your image becomes leverage. Everything that matters most to you gets slowly turned into a tool she can use to control you. And that's why these relationships feel so spiritually and emotionally devastating. She didn't just attack your life, she attacked the very parts of you that made you who you are. A lot of men in these toxic relationships get stuck because they keep trying to apply healthy relationship logic to a toxic, manipulative person. You think, if I just stay calm, she'll calm down. If I explain my heart, she'll understand. If I stay faithful to my values, eventually she'll respect them. But a narcissistic woman doesn't interpret your restraint as strength. She interprets it as permission. She sees your calmness and thinks she can push more. She sees your patience and thinks she can get away with more. She sees your moral seriousness and realizes you'll take the high road while she plays dirty. Now that is where high value men get trapped, because your character keeps telling you to stay grounded, but your discernment hasn't yet caught up to the reality that you are being strategically manipulated. You keep trying to be the better man. Meanwhile, she keeps using your goodness as cover. And many men lose years right there. Not because they didn't have the strength, but because they had strength without the right framework. Now, one of the biggest goals of a female narcissist targeting a high value man is to disconnect him from his own judgment. Because if you remain clear, you'll eventually leave. If you remain confident, you'll stop tolerating the disrespect. If you remain connected to your instincts, the game is over. So she has to create confusion. She has to make you second guess yourself. She has to keep you emotionally flooded and mentally foggy. And that's why everything becomes your fault. That's why conversations get twisted. That's why your motives get misrepresented. That's why every boundary gets framed as cruelty. She is not just trying to win arguments. She is trying to destabilize your internal compass. And when that happens to a high value man, it feels brutal, because you are used to being decisive. You are used to being thoughtful. You are used to leading well. So when you start questioning yourself all the time, it doesn't just hurt, it attacks your identity. You start thinking, I don't even feel like myself anymore. Exactly. That's the point. If she can break your connection to yourself, she can keep the cycle going. So what happens when you finally wake up? What happens when you start seeing the pattern clearly? That's when the game changes. When a narcissistic woman targets a high value man, she usually expects him to stay longer than he should. Why? Because she has already profiled him. She knows he is loyal. She knows he values commitment. She knows he takes responsibility seriously. And she knows he doesn't want to be the bad guy. So when that man starts waking up it unsettles her. When you start emotionally detaching, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop chasing her approval, when you stop reacting the way you used to, she feels the shift. And often that's when the behavior changes again. She may become sweeter, more attentive, more apologetic, more affectionate, but many men misunderstand that moment. They think she's finally getting it, maybe, but more often than not, she's not responding to love. She's responding to loss of control, because once your clarity returns, her leverage begins to weaken, and a high-value man with restored clarity is dangerous to the game, because now he sees. Now he names the pattern. Now he stops volunteering his strength to someone who is using it against him. Let's talk about the real mistake. It's not that you were high value. That's not the mistake. The mistake was assuming that your value alone would protect you. It won't. Your value attracts, but your boundaries protect. Your integrity attracts, but your discernment protects. Your strength attracts, but your standards protect. Being a strong man is not enough. You also have to be a clear man, a man who can identify manipulation, a man who can trust his gut, a man who knows that not everyone who admires him honors him. That's the shift. You do not stop being a good man. You stop being an accessible man to manipulative, toxic people. That's different. And that lesson changes everything. I want to go back to the image from the beginning. A high-value man is a fortress. He has built something. He has structure. He has weight. He has values. He has leadership. And a healthy woman sees that fortress and says, I want to build a life with that man. But a narcissistic woman sees that fortress and says, I want inside, not to honor it, but to extract from it, to take the stability, to take the attention, to take the provision, to take the image, to take the emotional labor. And if she can, to take the confidence of the man himself. That's the difference. A healthy woman wants partnership. A narcissistic woman wants access and control. And if you have lived through this, that distinction is not theoretical. It's personal. You felt it. You watched it happen. You lived the slow erosion. So what do you do with this? First, you stop rewriting the story as if you were weak. You weren't weak. You were targeted through your strengths. Second, you start identifying where your good qualities became unprotected qualities. Where did your patience become passivity? Where did your empathy become self-abandonment? Where did your loyalty become bondage? Where did your sense of responsibility become chronic self-blame? Now that reflection matters, not so you can shame yourself, but so you can strengthen yourself. Third, you rebuild your discernment. You stop ignoring red flags just because someone seems emotionally intense. You stop confusing chemistry with character. You stop assuming admiration means sincerity. You stop giving trust too cheaply. And fourth, you get your identity back. A female narcissist often leaves a man disconnected from himself. And your job now is to rebuild from truth, to reconnect with your instincts, to reconnect with your standards, and to reconnect with your voice. That is how you become dangerous again. Not to her, to the pattern. So again, why do female narcissists target high-value men? Because your integrity gives them cover. Because your stability gives them access. Because your character gives them leverage. And because breaking a strong, high-value man feels power. It feels like power to a woman who feeds on control. But the moment you understand that, the story changes. Now you stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what part of my strength was left unguarded? And that question leads to healing. That question leads to wisdom. And that question leads to freedom. If this episode hit home for you, if parts of your story started making more sense while you were listening to this, I want to encourage you to go deeper. My book, The Narcissistic Wife, breaks down these patterns in much more detail. It will help you understand how narcissistic women manipulate, how good men get trapped, and how to start reclaiming your clarity and your life. You can grab it on Amazon, or I'll link it below in the show notes. And look, if this episode helped you, added value to you, make sure to share it with another man who needs to hear it, because there are a lot of good men out there blaming themselves for something they were never taught to see. So until next time, stay strong, stay steady, and stay narc free.